Peace be upon everyone. Welcome to today's Qur'an study session. As I mentioned in my previous post, that I'm currently redoing some study sessions which I led in Urdu, because a number of our viewers have requested that those Urdu-based sessions should be done in English as well, in order to cater for our English-speaking audience. And so I'm taking the time to redo some of them. The most recent one you will have seen was the very important study about qalb, the meaning of qalb in the Quran, and opening up the locks to the qalb. So if you haven't seen that, please go to our channel and have a look at that video. It's really important to understand, as it will help you to see partly why it's important to deliberate over and study the Quran, and some of the methods for doing that. Really important in order to understand our the required frame of mind we need when it comes to faith, eemaan. So I'll let you have a look at that at your convenience. Today, we're going to be looking at what Allah says about the worst creature of His on earth, the worst creature. So let's get started. Okay, here we are. So we're talking about the worst creature. Now, before we get into the study itself of the Quran, have a look at this. It's estimated that the total number of humans that have ever lived on earth is 117 billion. 117 billion. That includes the humans that are currently living on earth. Those are just humans. When we're talking about creatures, it's going to be a lot more than that. Far more than that. And scientists are unable to estimate how many creatures have roamed the earth. But even just humans, just take humans, 117 billion. And so when we think about the worst creature, just think about the magnitude that is the worst out of billions, probably trillions of creatures. So that's why this is going to be an interesting session. The verse that I want to start with is chapter 8 of the Quran, Surah Al-Anfal, verse 55. It's a very small verse. Allah says, Inna sharrad dawabi indallahi. This is how it starts off, the beginning of the verse. And that start of the verse means indeed, inna, indeed. So this is now something very definitive that we are being told. Indeed. It is definitive, it is very objective. There's no grey in this area. Indeed. Sharrad dawabi, the worst of creatures. And we looked at the magnitude of what that means. Now, just think about what Allah is about to tell us, or the importance or the seriousness of what Allah is about to tell us. Because we just saw how many creatures have roamed the earth. Allah saying the worst of creatures indallahi, according to Allah. It's not according to you or I. It's not according to scientists. It's not according to any psychologist or sociologist. According to Allah, indallahi. Who are the worst creatures? Well, that is what the next part of the verse tells us. Alladhina. So, alladhina. So here, we already know that Allah is whittling it down to certain people, certain humans. So all the non-human creatures are now out of this equation. The worst creature is not one of the non-human creatures. The worst creature is amongst humans. Alladhina, those. So we now know, we've now whittled it down somewhat to know it's to do with some people. It's not a flying creature. It's not a creature that lives in the wild. It's not the pig. It's not a bear. It's not an eagle. It's not a slug. The worst creature is amongst people. So, but what kind of people? Tell us, what kind of people? Well, here Allah tells us, Alladhina kafaroo. Those who do kufr. Kafaroo. Fahum la yu'minun. And they do not attain eemaan. So the worst of the creatures on earth are those who do kafaroo. They are the opposite of those who attain eemaan. So this is now, we must see the seriousness of this comment, of this statement in the Qur'an by our Creator. This should invoke a need for us to understand what kafaru means. What is kufr? Because these are the worst of creatures. So we're going to come back to that. We're going to look at how the Qur'an explains this to us, because it's so serious. So this is a question I would like to ask yourself, and let me know in the comments at this point. Who do you think are Kafir? Who are these people? Who are the people who do kafaru? Is it you and I? Is it people who don't call themselves Muslims? Who are these people? We need to understand these are the worst of all creatures. We'll come back to that. We're now going to look at another verse in the same chapter, in the same surah, verse 22. Allah starts this verse again with Inna sharra dawaba indallahi. The same phrase, indeed the worst of creatures according to Allah. This is definitive. But what does Allah say here? Usummul bukmu. The deaf, the dumb. Usummu ul bukmu. The deaf, the dumb. So the question is, so the people who are deaf, they're the worst of creatures? They are. I don't understand. The people who are dumb, people who are unable to speak, the mute, they are the worst of creatures? But maybe they were born that way. I don't understand. Allah, please explain to us a bit more. Well, Allah explains straight after. In the same verse, Allah says, Alladhina la yaqilun. Who are the deaf and the dumb? Those people who do not think. La yaqilun. They don't use their aql. Those are the deaf, the dumb. Let's take a pause there, because here you must be thinking, what's the connection? What's the connection between deaf, dumb, and people who do not think? What does that mean? So here again, as we've seen in our study sessions, Allah is using metaphorical language to explain something to us. Let's have a look at the metaphors here. Okay, so deaf and dumb, they are being used as metaphors, not literally. Not literally. Because if you look at the people who are deaf, what happens? The frequency of sound, they enter their ears, but they are unable to process those frequencies. They hear the sound, but they cannot process it. Make this a little bit bigger for you. They hear the sound, but cannot process it. So they might hear guidance. They might hear about the truth, but they're unable to pay any attention to it. They don't pay any attention to it. Guidance enters their ears, but not their hearts and minds. This is what happens. So someone might present the truth to these people, but they're like deaf people. They do not process that. They do not let it enter their hearts and minds. You must have heard the phrase going in one ear and out the other. This is what's happening. It doesn't enter their hearts and minds. The qalb. Here we have the connection to our most recent video about qalb and locks. So go back to that to connect. This is really important connection. Go back to that video if you're unsure. Guidance is entering the ears, but not their hearts and minds. These people, they ignore the truth, either willfully or through arrogance. They're not listening. They're not hearing. They might hear the words, but they're not really hearing. They're not doing anything with that information. They're not processing it. They're not letting it enter their hearts and minds. And these people, they shut out the call to reflect and change. And so, these people are spiritually deaf. They're spiritually deaf. They're not literally deaf. They are spiritually deaf. This is the way Allah is using this metaphor of deaf. These are people who might hear sounds, but they don't process it. They don't do anything to understand it. They let those words go into the ear and go out the other ear. Okay? And what about the dumb, the mute? You see, this is being used as a metaphor because people who are not hearing the truth, they're not really hearing the truth, how can they be expected or how can they be able to express the truth to others or to declare the truth to others? They're unable to. If you're not hearing, if you're not absorbing the truth, you're not going to be able to express the truth, either through words or through your actions. You will not be able to express the truth through your words or your actions. You're not going to be able to speak out in favor of the truth. You see, these people fail to express critical thinking. They're not able to express it because they're not really hearing. So how can they express any form of critical thinking? Any form of reasoned thinking, logical thinking? They're not. These people, they blindly follow others rather than voice reason. They're blindly following what other people have said or written. And they are inactive in promoting good. These people who are not able to really listen or express the truth, they are inactive. They cannot promote good or stand against the wrong because they are spiritually deaf and they are spiritually mute. This is why Allah is using this metaphor. Let's go back to this. Allah is telling us that the people who do not use the aql, who do not think, they are the deaf, the dumb. This is the explanation of the deaf and the dumb. Allah is saying people who do not think, they are spiritually deaf and they're spiritually mute. Because if you do not use your aql that Allah has given you, if you are blindly following what other people have said or written, then you're not processing the truth. You're not processing it. You're spiritually deaf. And then how can you express the truth to others? How can you express any form of critical thinking to others? The importance of thinking. And now, let's put these two verses together, because remember, both of them, started with the same phrase, indeed, definitively, without any grey areas. The worst of creatures, of these billions and trillions of creatures that walk on the earth, according to Allah, according to the Creator, according to the source of everything, are these people. But then you should say, if this is definitive that there are no grey areas, why is Allah explaining two different things here? People who do kufr and people who are deaf and dumb because they do not think. What's the connection here? Well, that's because this and this are the same. You see, one of the things you have to understand about studying the Qur'an, the method of understanding the Qur'an, is that to explain things to us, this is a technique that you will see in the Qur'an, that you will have similar verses and they will explain each other. These two verses explain each other. Those who do kafaroo and therefore do not attain eemaan are the same as those who do not think and who are therefore deaf and dumb spiritually. They are the same. A kafir is one who is not thinking. A kafir is someone who is spiritually deaf and dumb. A kafir is someone who does not use the aql. A kafir is one who blindly follows other people. Unless you think, unless you avoid being spiritually deaf and dumb, you cannot attain eemaan. This is what this is telling us. And these people who do not think, who are spiritually deaf and dumb, who are therefore kafir, they are the worst of creatures. The worst of the billions and trillions of creatures that have roamed this earth. That's how serious this is. Now, to bring this to life more practically, let's have a look at it another way. Do you remember last week, or in the previous video, we were looking at qalb and the locks upon the qalb, the locks upon the minds and hearts. Let's take this person. This is a person. This person who has locks upon his heart and his mind. This person looks a little bit arrogant, doesn't he? And it doesn't have to be a man, it could be a woman. It could be of any age. From what we've seen today, let's think about what kind of person this is. That's the worst creature. Let's picturize this person. This person does not process what he is hearing or seeing. He doesn't process it. He doesn't think about it. He doesn't ponder over it. He doesn't use his rationale or logic or reasoning capability to process what he's hearing or seeing. This person does not use reason or critical thinking. This person just hears something and blindly follows it or rejects it. No processing. This person blindly follows what others have said or written. You see, this person, we've learned, does kufr. Now, we know that the word kufr literally means to conceal something, to cover something up. Conceal something, cover something up. So what is this person covering up? Why is the word kufr used? And we need to know this to understand who kafir are. This person is covering up his capability, the facilities that have been provided to this person by his creator, by God, to think, to ponder, to use reason, to learn and to understand the truth that is presented clearly. That's what this person is covering up. That's what kufr means, is to cover up your ability to use your reason. It's your ability to use your logic, your ability to question, to critically think about something. That's what this person is covering up. That is kufr. And as a result, this person also covers up the truth then. Covers up the truth by virtue of not expressing the truth in their actions or their words. So they've covered up their ability, their facility to ponder and use reason and critically think. And by virtue of that, they've also covered up the truth. That is kufr. And that person does not attain eemaan. And this is important to understand, because we have to reflect upon ourselves. Are we this person? We, and I'm going to say people who call ourselves Muslims, we never consider ourselves to be a kafir. We never consider that we are doing kufr. We have been told that this word kufr, which is so serious, is meant to be other people, whilst we ourselves refuse to think critically, to ponder, to question. We ourselves blindly follow what we've been told, what we have been taught, what our forefathers have done. We blindly follow what an imam might tell us in the mosque. I'm not criticizing anyone here. This is not personal. I'm merely invoking thought. Do we blindly follow what others have told us? Do we follow blindly what someone who calls themselves a scholar or an imam? Or do we question? Do we use reason? Do we use logic? And why? Let's think about this, talk about pondering. Why has Allah said that this person is the worst creature? Why? Why is this the worst creature? Let's not just take it at the surface level and, blindly accept this verse. No, let's use our reason now. Let's use our reason to understand why this is the worst creature. Well, firstly, and there are two reasons I would present. The first reason is that humans are the only creature of God which has been given, which has been blessed with this level of understanding, this ability to learn, to ponder, and then to discover and use knowledge and to change things, to influence things on this earth. Humans are the only creature that have this blessing from God. And therefore, if we cover up this ability to think and become blind and spiritually deaf and spiritually dumb, we are not a good creature. We have not used that blessing. Other creatures do not have this ability. They are always following the path. They're always following the reason for their creation. If we have been given that blessing as humans, if we do not use it, we are the worst of creatures. That's the first reason. The second reason is that when humans do not use that capability to ponder, to reason, to reflect upon and understand the truth, they end up on the wrong path. They end up doing bad. They end up causing harm to other creatures, to other creations, to other humans, and to this earth. Just look at the state of this earth and what humans have done to it. Look at how humans treat other humans. Look at how humans treat the beautiful natural power that exists on this earth for us. How we misuse it. Look at what humans have done. How can you argue with the statement that we are the worst of creatures? Look at what we have done. And it's because we do kufr. It's because we conceal our ability to use reason. We blindly follow what others say. If someone says this is good, you accept it to be good. If someone says this is prohibited, you accept it to be prohibited. If someone says this person is bad, you're convinced that person is bad. If someone tells you if this person has this label, from a faith perspective, you must not like them, they are bad people. You accept that. We accept that. We do not use any form of logic or reason. We do not question it. The worst of creatures. So I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think. Has this given you any food for thought? Has this given you something to reflect upon? Please send me some comments, and please don't forget, this is important. Click on like and subscribe to our channel, because that really helps to spread this type of knowledge, and perhaps it might add value to someone. So it doesn't take a long time. Just click on that like button and subscribe to our channel, and that's going to help to spread the word, and perhaps this will help other people. I will leave it there. Please do drop me your comments, and I will see you again soon, God willing. Assalamu alaikum.
أفلا يتدبرون القرآن